What's up? It's your boy Kazi. I'm about to Kazi Plays. And like I said in my last video, if we went ahead and reached the like goal, I'll go ahead and drop part 2 where I'll go over the top 3 best heroes on each role to copy with Echo. And that's exactly what we're doing today. So without further ado, let's go and get into it. And like last time, I will be using these same factors. Sustainability, how long can you survive with the copy. Skill ceiling, how much time do I need to put into the character to have a basic idea of them. And the ultimate's worth. Is it worth it to go for the copy ult? And how big of an impact will it have on your team and the enemy's team? And I will be ranking these from low to high. Starting off with tanks, and in the third spot for best tanks, I put Orisa. Now if we're talking about her survivability, I would say it's about medium. She is definitely really good at initiating fights and staying alive for a good bit, especially with her ability Fortify. It gives her a bit more health to give the supports more time before they can decide to help her out and heal her. And on top of that, for spinning javelin, it's a kind of a shield, but not really a shield, but it does absorb some abilities. For example, the ults of Zarya, Mei, and Aladi, it can absorb those and cancel it out completely. And even smaller things like Ana nades, it can negate those effects too, if aimed correctly. But with the mix of getting extra health and absorbing incoming damage and abilities, this definitely will keep you alive for a good bit. Now if we're talking about her skill ceiling, I would say it's about medium, because here's the thing with Orisa, you do need to have a general idea of how the game's played, so you can decide when is the right time to initiate fights, because if you're going at the wrong time, you could get yourself killed, or even your backline could get flanked and get killed, which could cause your whole team to stagger. And on top of that, you do need to practice a little bit with your aim, because if you can hit those javelin spears, you can get picks quick. Because here's one thing you need to understand with Orisa. Orisa is not one of those high damage dealing characters. What she's best at is getting picks real quick on low targets. So if your DPSs get anybody low, she could potentially hit a quick spear that could take them out. Now if we're talking about the ultimate, I would say it's definitely worth it to pop the ult, but not for the reasons that you think. With Orisa's ult, obviously, if you charge up to the max, you do get the full damage, and chances are you could get kills with it. But you're not always going to be able to do that. And usually, most of the time, what you are doing is that if somebody's low, you pop the ult real quick to get the pick, or you pop the ult to keep the enemies low, so then the rest of the team could finish it off. And it does help that you do get a bit of Fortify when you do pop the ult, which is really good for any situation. Moving on to the second spot, we have Ramattra. Now if we're talking about his sustainability, I would say it's very high. With Ramatra's kit, he has so much to keep him alive. He has the shield to block incoming damage for him and his allies. He has the vortex, which keeps enemies on the ground so they can't really run away. And in his nemesis form, he has more health and he has a block ability that does reduce incoming damage. So with all of this, it can feel at times that it's impossible to kill a Ramattra, especially with good supports that know what they're doing. Now if we're talking about his skill ceiling, I would say it's pretty low, because Ramattra, he has one of the most straightforward strategies that I know. He's pretty easy to use. You just need a little bit of time. I would say probably a few days, and you can get the hang of him. And because of how much health he has, it puts him in a situation where he can go for picks that other heroes on tank can't. Now if we're talking about his ultimate, I would say it's definitely worth it, because with his ultimate, generally you would probably get it with 6-7 seconds left, but with that amount of time you can do so much damage to the other team. And because of the fact Annihilation, it covers a huge area, and on top of that it gives you extra health if you need it, it's definitely a huge game changer and could change the pace of the match depending on if you use it at the right time. And in the number one spot, we have everyone's favorite, D.Va. Now if we're talking about her sustainability, I would say it's extremely high, because she is the only character that when you copy, you gain 3 lives. You have the mech, Baby D.Va, and Echo herself. With this, it already skyrockets her pretty high in the tier list, but what pushes her to the top is the fact that she has high mobility, which means she can get in and out, and on top of that, the Matrix itself, it's such a useful ability, because What separates it from Orisa's spinning javelin is the fact that it blocks all incoming bullets. Well, obviously stuff like, for example, May's beam or Moira's, like her absorption doesn't really do anything about it, but main stuff like bullets, arrows, and stuff, and projectile based stuff, it absorbs all of that. And because of that, that's what pushes her to the top of the tier list. Now, if we're talking about her skill ceiling, I would say it's about medium. Because obviously she's one of those characters that everybody picks up, and chances are you probably have a general idea of how to play the character. But there are a few things that people don't do. Like, for example, do you know that in the lower ranks, there are tons of people who play D.Va and don't use their jet thrusters before they pop the ult? They just pop the ult right there. And chances are, it's probably not going to hit because people see it and they know how to avoid it. But when you have a moving bomb that's flying towards you, chances are you're not going to be able to dodge it in time, especially in an open area. And if we're talking about ultimate's worth, I would say it's extremely high. Now, D.Va, her ult is a game changer, especially if you get at least 2 kills with it. And on top of that, if you don't know already, there are some people, especially in the higher ranks, what they do is that after they pop the bomb, they bait people to go ahead and push her, because everybody knows that baby D.Va, she's extremely weak and can die pretty quickly. So they bait people in, and then once they do, they pop mech. Because if you don't know already, when you summon back the mech and somebody's right next to you, not tanks, but DPSs and supports, it immediately one-taps them. So it's another way for you to get a free pick as well. And if you do enjoy this type of content, I do have a Discord, link will be in the description below. But yeah, we're going to talk about gaming, anime, and memes. And if that's your kind of thing, feel free to stop by. Moving on to the DPS category, and in the third spot we have Tracer. Now, if we're talking about Tracer's survivability, I would say it's low. Because here's the thing, with Tracer, she's a squishy, right? Obviously, she can zip and zoom around, and she has recall to recover any damage. But the thing is that if people, they know how to counter against you, like, and if they can time their shots, for example, like Kree, if she can hit his sticky on you, you can't really do much, and you're basically dead. Now, if we're talking about her skill ceiling, I would say Tracer is really high. Because here's the thing, like I said, with her being a squishy, you do need to be able to time when you push around to flank the enemies, or if you're just staying up front, you do need to time your attacks so you can get in and out pretty quickly without taking too much damage. And if we're talking about the ultimate's worth, I would say it's really high, because you generally can get 2 pulse bombs off, which at the very least means that you're guaranteed 2 kills. And if you push for it, you can get a 3rd sticky bomb. However, it's not always likely, but if you do, it's probably going to be in the last 2 seconds. But luckily, even if you go back to normal, the bomb will still go through. And in the second spot, we have the recently released Venture. Now, if we're talking about their sustainability, I would say it's about medium. Because here's the thing with Venture, right? You obviously have tons of mobility, being able to move in and out with Burrow, but there is the risk of you being wide open for attacks, because obviously you have Drill Dash, but Drill Dash doesn't take you out too far, right? So people could easily catch up to you and kill you if they're paying attention. And if we're talking about their sustainability, I would say it's about medium. Because actually before I was gonna rank it low for them, but because of the nerfs that they got, I feel like now Venture, they do take a bit more time to practice with, and you do need to be able to decide whether or not you can go in and get the pick or not. Because if you go in at the wrong time, since you really don't have an exit to get out, the enemies could easily kill you and finish you off. Now, if we're talking about the ultimate's worth, I would say it's extremely high. Because here's the thing, right? With Venture, their Tectonic Shock is one of those ults that, if timed right, it can be a huge game changer, especially for flanks. 9 times out of 10, whenever I see a Venture, they use their ult for a flank, they at least get 2 to 3 picks with it. And because of how wide the range is of the ult, it's really hard to avoid getting hit by it. Unless there's somebody using a shield, they have some kind of countermeasure against it. And in the number 1 spot for best DPS, we have Mei. Now with Mei, she has really high sustainability, right? Because here's the thing, obviously she has the ice block that heals her up, but on top of that, she has the ice wall that does buy time too. So she can go into an ice block, heal herself up, and then on top of that, she can cut off the enemies with the wall so she can stall for some time to get the ice block back. And because of that, that makes it so that you're gonna be surviving for a really long time with her. Now, if we're talking about her skill ceiling, I would say it's really low because obviously she has a beam that doesn't really take too much work to get the hang of. However, the icicles does take a little bit of practice, but is not really too much you need to practice on. However, I will say that timing the ice wall to cut off the enemies from their supports is something that some Meis still do struggle with. Especially there are times whenever like I'm playing on a team and my mate happens to like cut me off from the enemy where I'm just about to kill them, and mind you, I'm completely fine. I have enough HP to survive and get out too if needed. And if we're talking about the ultimate's worth, I'd say it's extremely high. With Mei's ult, Blizzard, it's such a huge game changer, right? You pop Blizzard out, you can easily get a few picks. And for me, what I like to do, because of the fact that with Blizzard, it actually stays out even if you're in your normal form. So what you would do is that use Mei for as much as you can, get your ult, and then in like the last 2 seconds, pop the ult out, and then go ahead and melt them with Echo, because obviously you should be able to do like the sticky bomb combo on at least one of them. And finally, we are at the best supports, but before we do, let me go ahead and mention Mercy, because she is a really good support copy, and I feel like copying her to go for a res, for example, like res in one of your supports, or even if you have another Mercy on your team, double damage boosting somebody is an insane combo, and it stacks it, believe it or not. But yeah, everybody else on this list is way better than that, but I do feel like Mercy should get a mention here. Coming in at 3rd place for best supports, we have Moira, and if we're talking about her sustainability, I'd say it's pretty high. From the fade, she can get in and out of danger, and on top of that, if you know how to do the super jump, that gives her even more distance. And also the healing orb does provide her some heals too to keep her alive. With these two combining together, this does make it pretty hard for enemies to kill you. And if we're talking about her skill ceiling, I would say it's about medium, right? Because I don't know why, but especially in the lower ranks, people love playing DPS Moira, because they always like to go in and dive and just go for straight damage without healing. Now, I'm not saying that once you copy a Moira to go for straight heals. I'm saying to like give a little bit of heals and then go into the action, because by doing so, your supports, they get a little bit of stress off their back, and they could probably help with the team get some damage in too. And on top of that, doing the balance between the heals and the damage builds the copio a lot faster than just going for straight damage, believe it or not. Speaking of the ultimate's worth, I would say it's about medium. Because here's the thing, don't get me wrong, having a beam that deals damage to enemies and healing your allies is really good. The only thing though is that there are so many characters now that, like, especially if the team's focusing the more, it's so easy to delete her, because even though the beam is healing her while she's doing it, it's still not enough for her to survive, even though you can like fade in and out with the beam. But like I said, it's still really good, it's just not one of the best options. And coming in at number 2, we have Baptiste. Now if we're talking about his sustainability, I'd say it's pretty high. He has the lamp, which does protect him from dying, and on top of that, he does have the heal boost if he needs it. And if we're talking about his skill ceiling, I'd say it's extremely high, because with Bap, there's so many things he has to worry about. He has to worry about if he has to put out a lamp for his teammates to pump out heals, or if he can go in and do a bit of damage. And if he focuses too much on one aspect, it will hinder his potential, and you can't use Bap to the fullest of his abilities. And if we're talking about his ultimate's worth, I would say it's about medium, because here's the thing, obviously it increases your healing and damage output whenever you shoot through it. The only issue though is that it's so easy to just move out of the way of it. All you gotta do is just hide behind something and wait for it to disappear, and mind you, you're already Echo, And by the time you do get the ult, you're probably around like, I want to say like 7-8 seconds. And however it does stay a little bit after you turn back to normal, that still doesn't change the fact of how easy it is to dodge. So positioning definitely is key if you want to use this to the best. And now finally coming in at number 1 for best supports to copy is Kiriko. Now if we're talking about her sustainability, I'd say it's extremely high. She has the ability to climb walls, and on top of that, with her cleanse, she can get rid of so many debuffs, and it also serves as a temporary lamp. And let's not forget her swift step that also helps you get out of danger by teleporting to your nearest allies. And if we're talking about her skill ceiling, I would say it's really high as well. You do have to go into the lab for some time to learn to hit those headshots, because especially on most DPSs and supports, it takes about 2 to 3 kunais to kill them if they're to the head. And on top of that, you do need to be able to react quickly on some stuff. For example, if somebody's throwing in a D.Va bomb, you got to be able to time that Suzu properly, otherwise you're gonna die. Or teleportation with a little bit of delay, even if you already locked on to the target and are mid animation, people can still kill you. All these factors play into you being able to play Kiriko to the best of her abilities. And if we're talking about her ultimate's worth, I'd say it's pretty high. With headshots, if you have no problem hitting them, you should be able to build the ultimate really quick. And on top of that, she has one of those few ultimates that still hang around for a few seconds after Echo goes back to normal. It usually lasts like an extra 3-4 seconds, so use that time wisely so you can get that last final push. And that was the top 3 picks for each role. Feel free to talk in the comments below whether you agree or disagree with some of my picks. And if you do enjoy this kind of stuff, feel free to, support your boy. But yeah, I think that's everything for this video, so I'll catch you on the next one. Y'all take it easy.